Greg and I were in Nashville at the same time, and if you go to his website, he's got some little videos, and one of them he talks about when he first got to town that he worked at a health food restaurant that was on Music Road there, and they served vegetarian items, but they also served alcohol, and and so he has some stories about that. But anyway, thanks for giving me the chance to go back there and have some of those mini quiches. I've noticed in the news lately, actually the last several weeks, that there are some common elements in some of the stories, some common threads running through some of the stories. And one of those threads is faith. Of course, with the Pope's visit last week, that was a historic visit, and that shined the light on the Catholic faith. And then there are some stories in the news about controversy or questions or concerns about the Muslim faith. And then there are those who seek to express their Christian faith in their everyday lives, sometimes in defiance of government law. So all of these stories have to do with faith. But I've noticed that when the newscaster is talking about faith, or when the person is talking about faith, that they are, this is just my perspective, this is just my opinion, but it seems like they're talking about a structure, a belief system, a set of ethical standards or moral values and such that they've put together or has been put together for them. To me, that's a misuse of the word faith. But I have Charles Fillmore to thank for helping to explain that faith has many expressions. Charles Fillmore would call that an intellectual faith. But it is true, we have many expressions of faith. And he says that in order for us to really allow our character to come forward, that we should develop all those expressions: faith in ourselves, faith in others, faith in God. But a simple, basic definition of faith would be belief in the power and or ability of someone or something. Does that sound right to you? Do you agree with that? Belief in the power and ability of someone or something. Like we talk about faith in science or technology. I believe in that light switch over there, that when I turn it off, it's going to go off. Or we believe in our cars, that we have faith that they're going to take us from here to where we want to be. Believing in the power and ability of people. Having faith that our granddaughter will score a goal for her team, or our son will finish his PhD, or that our minister will be there when we need them. But the greatest, grandest expression of faith is as it pertains to the spiritual realm. Believing in an infinite, omniscient, powerful presence. So what we seek to do here at Unity Center of the Desert is to develop that faith in the presence. Some of us call it God. Some of us call it creative mind. Some of us call it divine intelligence. Some of us call it great spirit. Some of us think of it as an energy or a life force. Some of us call it life itself. Some of us think of it as a spirit. But I want to be really clear that when we talk about God here, that we're talking about an expansive concept of God, far greater than that described in the Old Testament. When we talk about God, we're talking about a holistic, all-inclusive idea of God that's even greater than that described in the New Testament of the Bible. Because we take that ancient wisdom, that wisdom of the ages, and we integrate it with the most recent findings and discoveries of science and philosophy and religion. So that way, we can have a cohesive faith. We can have a solid foundation. It all goes together. Authentic, genuine, real, solid. You know, many years ago, people thought that the earth was the center of the universe and that everything revolved around the earth. It might have hurt our egos a little bit, but we had to give up that idea because that's not even close to the truth. We're not even in the center of our galaxy. We're kind of on the outskirts out here, just some little point of light right out here on the edge of the Milky Way. And we're not the only galaxy. Scientists have discovered or determined that there's over 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. So as our understanding of ourselves expands, as our understanding of life expands, so must our understanding of God expand. So what we seek to do here at Unity Center of the Desert is what could be called to develop an authentic faith. One that everything goes together. It all makes sense. That there's nothing hidden or unreconciled. I want to live an authentic life, don't you? I want to be authentic in my expression and my creativity. I want my relationships to be authentic, don't you? To be trustworthy and open and honest. Nothing hidden, like there's something that we just don't talk about. We sweep it under the rug. No, I don't want that. I want it to be genuine. So how much more so our relationship with God should be real and authentic and clear and open. So the first principle of unity is that God is absolute good everywhere present. God is absolute good. Just breathe that in for a minute. Have you ever thought about how powerful that is? How life-changing that is? How world-changing that is? Just think, if every person on the planet really got it, that there's only one power and it is absolute good. Wow. That would change everything. Charles Fillmore wrote, "God is good and God is all. Hence there can be no real condition but the good. Why should we waste our time fighting evil? If we build our character upon faith, understanding, and love with the great I Am at the focal center, as the focal center, we shall become pillars in the temple of God." Isn't that beautiful? God is absolute good, everywhere present. We talked about this last time I was here. Everywhere present. God, or as what Jesus called the Father in heaven, is in every single person on the planet. God is within you, around you, supporting you, sustaining you, protecting you, listening if God has ears, interacting, answering all the time. It's powerful stuff, isn't it? Well, I know I've shared with some of you bits and pieces of my story, but I grew up in the Christian religion, very solid Christian religion. And when I graduated from college, I didn't want to have anything to do with God. I didn't want to hear about it. In fact, it was the day after I graduated from college. I packed up my car and I left San Jose and I went on the road for a solid 18 months and traveled as a singer. I performed any place anybody would have me. I remember singing at a spaghetti house in Roseburg, Oregon, just the other day. But I didn't want to hear about God. I just wanted to get it out of my mind. I didn't want to think about it. Didn't want to be around religious people. Didn't want to go to church. Definitely didn't want to be around ministers. And so I just wanted to clear it out because there were some unreconciled things in my life. And I wanted to live authentically. And as my understanding of myself was coming out, I was realizing these conflicting ideas about God that I just couldn't reconcile them in my heart and mind. So after 18 months, I bought a one-way ticket to Honolulu. And they're surrounded in the beauty, and I began to open up even more. And I met some Buddhists and some people of the Hindu faith, met my first atheists and people of all different religions and cultures. And I thought, I want to be authentic in my faith. I want it all to go together. I want it to apply and appeal to all people. And so it was there, and this period of my life went on about 10 years. But it was there that I began to remember that I am a spiritual being and that I'm connected to all of life. And so I wanted to read all these books and learn more about these things. The thing is that I then moved to Nashville, and my career as a songwriter was taking off. Everything was going fabulously. It was wonderful, but I was so busy, I didn't have enough time to read all these books I wanted to read. So I decided that what was most important was my spirituality. So I let that go, and I got on the bus. I had pictured myself parked along a cool mountain stream with the wind blowing through the pine trees, and I'd sit there and I'd open the book and I'd read Krishnamurti or Aldous Huxley or something. And I ended up being parked out on Highway 80 at Arizona West RV Park. You familiar with that out there? And it was September, and they said, you can park out there just for a month, because I wasn't 55, so they said, you can park out there until the winter visitors get back. So I parked right next to the swimming pool, and a little tiny pool, and every morning I would read. And I was really into Emily Cady and Joel Goldsmith and Course in Miracles, autobiography of Yogi, all these things. I'd read a little bit, and they all said the same thing. One God, one power, one God, absolute good. And so I'd read that, and then I'd close the book, and then I'd go swim some laps and contemplate what I'd been reading. One God? Really? Only one? Not two? No, not two. That would be a house divided. It couldn't stand. Oh, only one. That's where my song One came from. That's on the When I Say Yes CD. One God, one mind, one power for good. Bloop. One God, one mind, one power for good. You can tell it wasn't a very big swimming pool. Good thing I wasn't doing the dog paddle. That'd be too many words. But I thought, I'm beginning to get it. I'm beginning to understand it with my mind, to feel it in my heart. It's becoming embodied in my entire being. Just that one thing. I'm just going to take that one thing. Nothing convoluted, nothing contrived, not trying to force anything, just that one thing, and that's going to be my faith. And I thought of the words of Jesus. If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, move, and it will move from here to there. Nothing will be impossible for you. And that's the beginning, the foundation of my faith, my authentic faith. So, how do we develop an authentic faith? Well, today, like Cindy said, our Power Up get-together begins, and each month going to study one of the 12 spiritual powers or expressions that Charles Fillmore talks about in his many books, but his book, The 12 Powers of Man, and we're starting with faith. So they're going to give you some ideas. It's a group discussion. Everybody participate, and some materials maybe to help you through the month to just saturate yourself in understanding this spiritual power called faith. So they're going to help you do that. But I would like to give you some ideas about how to develop an authentic faith just based on my own experience. First of all, in order to develop an authentic faith, you have to release. You have to let go of those habits of belief, those habits of thinking that aren't in alignment with divine law, that don't quite go together, that aren't quite serving you. And like that song says, I release and I let go. I let the Spirit lead the way. Not I let the book lead the way. Not I let the preacher lead the way. Not I let tradition lead the way or my past experience lead the way. I let the Spirit lead the way. The second thing, in order to live an authentic life, is to open. Become willing and receptive. I released a lot of old ways of thinking. And there was a void in my life for a long time. I needed to let go of that. But then I began to open up. I opened to a new way of thinking, a more holistic way of thinking. And also, you want to open up to taking baby steps as you make this transformation. To be open and receptive and responsive to this divine impulse, this wisdom that's flowing through you. That's where my song I Am Ready came from. I am ready to become more fully who I am. I am ready to take a look at myself. Let the light inside shine throughout my life so I can clearly see God expressing perfectly as me. And when I sing that, I always think of this light shining. And it's shining in these dark corners. And it's just shining the light on it. So there's no dark corners in my own life, and not in my relationships, and definitely not in my relationship with God. So the third thing, in order to develop an authentic faith, is trust. Let go and float. So this morning I want to ask you, are you ready to release those old habits of thinking, those old ways of believing? Are you open and willing and receptive to new thoughts? Are you ready to not see with your physical eyes, but with your inner eye? And are you ready to trust? Are you ready to fall back into the arms of unconditional love and know that you are safe and you are supported, you are loved, you are cared for, you are protected, you are provided? I hope you are, and I love each one of you. Namaste. So we're going to go into a meditation time.